and we are live. I want to thank our sponsors for bringing us the bandwidth to do the show. Of course, the advertisers we have for the show: Concealment Solutions, Crusader Weaponry, New Jersey Second Amendment Society, the Firearms Safety Institute, and our title sponsor, the Firearms Policy Coalition. This is a Polite Society podcast. We'll be getting into our interview here in just a second. For live viewers, of course, you can always watch us and kick a question in live. You can hit the Q&A app, and either on Google Plus or on YouTube, and that'll shoot a question right into the Hangout, and we'll answer it for you on the air. We're going to be getting going with a Reloading podcast with the first interview, and then we will be doing Melody Lauer. Lima Tunes will be our second interview that we do. Gentlemen, are we ready to kick off this first interview?
Absolutely.
Okay, remember, feet together, hands pointed, jump in.
Keep all hands and feet inside the ride at all times. Here we go, coming back in 5. Hi, and welcome back to the interview segment of the Polite Society podcast, powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. Joining us for our first interview today, we have the guys from the Reloading podcast. I asked them on because basically I'm a little bit interested in reloading. Jim is, you will probably remember him, he's been on the air here with us before. He's formerly Reloading Radio, back when both his show and my show were on the now non-existent Gun Rights Radio Network. But he got together with a few other guys, got everything started back up, and Jason, Mike, and Jim, I want to thank you all for coming on the air today, man.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Well, to get started then, basically what I wanted to do is cover, basically reloading for the very, very beginners. And if I were somebody who had been shooting quite a bit, was thinking about maybe starting to reload, what should I know before I actually make the plunge and start reloading?
I would say buy yourself a book called The ABCs of Reloading to see if you want to explore the issue.
Yeah. Definitely get, also, see if you can find somebody locally that is reloading that you can kind of hang on to and kind of watch. Check your local gun stores. Some of them have reloading classes you can do also. Obviously, our podcast. We have videos on YouTube plus the podcast, the audio we do every week. But you definitely want to check and see if it's something you're interested in doing, because it can be.
Mentor is a good idea. A mentor is a very good idea.
You mean it's not just something that just magically produces cheap ammo?
Only in California.
No, it's not.
Yeah, here. Go ahead. No, you were saying something important. That you have to actually enjoy reloading.
I was right. Well, no, not really. The thing is, I also, yeah, I know that sounded funny, but no, we also have a mentoring group called the Reloading Room. That dates back to the Reloading Radio podcast also. But anyway, we have about 20,000 members, 20,000 plus members in there, and we actually cater to folks like yourselves that have never reloaded.
I've been a member of that group for quite a while, and I have learned. I still have never made the jump into reloading, but I've learned a lot just by perusing the group every now and then.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's just oodles and oodles of information in that group that you can just, even if you kind of just follow it loosely on Facebook, every once in a while you'll pop up a question and just get the answer to the question, and it's a great resource. But yeah, as Jim said earlier, by far and away the best thing is mentoring, or if you can't find a mentor, if you can find somebody that's doing classes on it.
I know myself, I took a class at a local gun shop, and they used the NRA curriculum for it. And it worked out well because there were only 2 of us in the class, so definitely hands-on.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So
the NRA does have some pretty pretty good. Because you got to be an NRA member to find those classes.
Yeah.
And everybody
Hornady,
should be anyway.
exactly. Hornady has started really getting out there with free introductory classes. They had one at one of the local reloading shops. There's a shop just north of me here that sells shotgun supplies, trap shooting supplies, and then reloading supplies and stuff. And so Hornady had a weekend worth of classes up there. So you can check Hornady's website. They're starting to do that more and more.
Okay. Well, then, now, the word is that I've heard is that you get started in reloading. Everybody gets into reloading because they're going to save money. Now, what I've heard is you don't save a penny, but you shoot a lot more.
Correct.
That's the truth. That's
Yes.
true.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that's true. Next thing then, reloading for rifles versus reloading for pistols. Same thing, two different animals, same equipment, different equipment.
Same equipment, different dies.
Yeah. Your pistol cartridges are, for the most part, a straight wall cartridge. And what that means is, if you're just looking at your standard pistol round, it's, kind of hold one up here. It's smooth all the way up till it gets to the bullet. There's no major dimples or anything. But if you look at a rifle cartridge, most of your rifle cartridges are not straight wall. So like this here, it's got the neck and shoulder. So they function slightly different, and there's going to be different parts that expand and different parts that you have to actually size back down once they've been shot or haven't been shot at all. So there is different techniques for each. Plus, the whole the purpose you're doing for reloading is going to be, it depends on what system you're going to use. If you're going to just be reloading pistol for target practice and you don't really care about accuracy whatsoever, you're going to do it one way. When you start caring about accuracy, your method is going to change more and more and more. There's more detail-oriented stuff that you're going to be paying attention to, the more accurate you want to try and get.
Now, I've heard quite a bit. Matter of fact, I heard in the Masada U Group Mag 40 class, do not rely on hand loads, something you loaded yourself for self-defense. Now, I'm wondering, for the rifle shooters, I'm guessing there would be no problem at all using the hand loads for hunting. As a matter of fact, if you can get better accuracy than you can with factory ammo, I would think it would be a preferred way to go.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the reasons hand-loaded starting in the first place, is because they were getting more accurate ammo than factory. Factory ammo has, frankly, not been that spectacular, except for in the last 15, 20 years, they've really started picking up their game as far as consistency and accuracy from factory ammunition. So, but the main reason Mass says that isn't necessarily because of accuracy or reliability issues. The main reason that Mass says don't use reloaded ammo is it opens up the door for the prosecutors to cause you more problems than headaches. Yes, there is the problems of squibs. There is the problems of squibs. There is the problems of defective primers and stuff like that. But most often or not, you're going to have the same worries with your regular ammunition. But the main reason is so you do not have to worry about the prosecutor opening up that door of your regular ammunition that you buy off the store wasn't good enough. You had to make your own person killer rounds or lethal rounds or anything like that. That's the main reason.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next thing that came to mind then is somebody who's just getting started reloading, doesn't have any equipment. Now there are the reloading systems I've seen are, I believe it was a Dillon 650, which is you pull on the lever and it looks like a roulette wheel down in Vegas, man. All kinds of things start happening. I'm guessing that's probably something a little beyond what you would recommend for a beginner.
Yes. Yes. So he's we always recommend single stage reloading. You can get into reloading for less than $300. A Dillon 650, like you're talking about, is a $550 machine.
Okay.
Let's get 550 start, but you're not done at that point as far as
No.
equipment.
Oh, no.
That's literally
That's
just the
the
press.
machine itself.
Yeah, that's just the press itself. For under $300 with a single stage, you can actually get everything you need to reload, up to and including the brass, the bullets, the powder, and the primers. So, and actually,
Right.
if you do your
Mike's
shopping
got a
right, you can
single
probably
stage.
get it for under $2.
Mike's got a single stage press right there behind his left shoulder,
Yeah.
and I don't know what'd you spend on that, Mike? The press alone, $90.
I bought the anniversary kit. When I bought it, it was about 90. Right now, I think it's about 100 and a quarter to 150, depending on where you find it.
Okay.
What do you guys think about buying used equipment?
If it's in good shape, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And a lot of these companies, even if it's not in good shape, a lot of these companies have very good warranties, and they will replace parts for you, no questions asked. Even if you tell them it's used, I just bought it, the ram's worn out, whatever, they'll still replace it.
Yeah, because I think I have a RCBS Rock Chucker Press or Rock Chucker Junior. I want to say I paid $35 for it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it was a few years ago.
Yeah.
Haven't set it up yet, but it's in great shape.
There you go.
Well, if you want some help with that, let us
Mike,
know.
show you press up on the camera.
Yeah, this is just my Lee single stage. And why they say single stage is there's only a spot for one reloading die. So you can only do one function at a time.
Would you review the functions that have to go? What are the different processes, and not all of them take place in a press, that you have to go through to convert raw materials into something you're ready to chamber?
Sure. Well, your first step is going to be acquiring brass. Whether that is range-fired brass that either you picked up off the ground that somebody left, or whether you bought new brass online or you bought actual ammunition and then unloaded it, which is always the fun part. You're going to want that brass. You're going to have to deprime it. That's going to be your first step. And so, hang on a second. Yeah.
So you mean that little odd cartridge that I got out of Winchester white box that had no primer in the bottom and no powder on the inside either? That's not how it was supposed to look?
No. Unless, of course, you were buying it secondhand and you weren't paying attention, then it's entirely possible. So your first thing is going to be you're going to be depriming them. So you're going to want a die like this that has a little pin on the bottom, and that actually.
And for podcast listeners that don't catch this on YouTube, go over to our YouTube page, and this will be right at the beginning of the show, so you can catch it.
And pictures in the show notes.
So I don't have any cases lubed up, so I'm not going to actually show you.
No, we don't need that.
There's a little, as you can see, there's a space in the die where the brass is actually going to go, and what it does is it compresses the brass back down to what specification is, what the actual size needs to be in order to be reloaded. And then your second step is going to be putting a new primer in. A lot of people do that with a hand primer, and there's a lot of different brands. But what it is essentially it's just a little tool. You slide the brass in, and it reseats the primer. So then your new primer looks like this, where it's got the brass seated, or the new primer seated in it. Next step would be measuring your powder, and you're going to use a scale of some sort. There's digital scales, there's beam style scales. If you've got a lot of extra money, you can actually get the fancy dancy auto measuring tools. There's a few different companies that make them. Jason's got a really nice one from RCBS. You just type in what powder grains you want, and it dispenses it for you.
Oh, typos could be deadly in that one.
Yeah. So, and then once you're done with that, then you're going to actually
Yes,
see.
300 grains as opposed to 30.
Yeah.
Although I want to know a case that holds 300 grains
Go
that
ahead.
we shoot on a regular
Go ahead.
basis. I want to shoot that. And then the last step is going to be seating the bullet. The big thing with when you're dispensing your powder is you're going to want to make sure that you develop a system so you don't double charge the case. And what double charging is where you put two measures of the same powder in the same case. That can be very deadly.
Will most cases accept a double powder charge?
Quite a few. Probably better than 50%. Or at least most of that double charge. So it is a very serious problem. It is something that you do need to be aware of. There's more often than not, you're going to run across a case that will accept most of a double charge versus a case that won't accept anything.
One question just came to mind. When I bought my everyday carry gun, which is a Glock 22 40 caliber, the documentation that came with my Glock said, "Do not shoot reloaded ammo." Now, I've shot reloaded ammo that I have bought from other people to shoot through my gun. For example, when I went through the Mag 40 class, I used remanufactured, so to speak, ammo. But what I'm wondering is, I hear about a Glock bump. Is that something that causes an issue with reloading, or is that something that the die will take care of?
Well, Jim and Jason, since you both own a Glock 22, you want to answer this one?
Well, number one, I got to apologize because I'm cutting in and out. So if I go all squirrely, Jason, you're going to have to back me up on that.
You got it.
I do shoot reloaded ammunition in my Glock 22. The Glock bulge you're talking about is what they call an unsupported chamber. It's just basically just a little extra clearance a machine into the bottom of the chamber to take and help enhance reliable feeding. And the Glock bulge is always ironed out for me. I shoot only reloaded ammunition in my Glock 22, and I don't have an issue with it.
Yeah, I think the reason Glock put that in there is just a liability thing. I don't think it's because I put thousands of rounds of reloaded ammo through my Glock. I've never had an issue with it, other than primer occasionally not. And the stuff that I bought that was reloaded, I've had some primer issues where the primers didn't fire off like they were supposed to. But other than that, and that's just, and since I'm using it just for practice and for training anyway, hey, what I figure is I get practice with my drills for tap rack bang. So not a huge issue for me. It's just I wanted to make sure there wasn't a real reason. It was just a liability thing from Glock.
Yeah, and that's most new manufacturers are going to put that in there as a liability. Just, it's the old cover your butt thing.
I believe Smith & Wesson has that in theirs too.
I'm pretty sure my Ruger came with it that way too.
Yeah, it's embarrassing when they say that if you shoot it at all, the warranty is void, but they can get away with it by saying if you shoot reloads.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So simple, we just don't tell them.
Exactly. So.
Well, we're coming up on the end of the segment here, guys. I do want to thank you so much for joining us. And now, everybody, if you are not listening to the Reloading podcast, if you are new to reloading, I recently, embarrassingly enough for me, recently rediscovered them. They've got a episode that was just a few episodes ago that gives reloading definitions. And for a new reloader, go listen to that, because you're going to learn a ton when you get through that episode. You guys did a great job with that.
Thank you, Paul.
So, but again, thanks for joining us, guys. We are going to jump off to break, and we've got Melody Lauer, Lima Tunes, coming up when we come back right after this.
I'm going to get off the air, guys.
All
Take
right,
care, Jim.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
I'll see you in Nashville.
Absolutely.
Thank you for the invite, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Hey guys, even though you see what I look like, I hope you'll say hi in Nashville anyway.
Yes, we
We'll
will.
see you. We'll talk. We'll speak to you, Rob. You'll
Thank
see
you.
us.
Thanks,
Somebody
guys.
will talk to me.
Yep.
Okay.
Alright.
Do we want to cut this intro then?
Sure. Yeah, till Melody shows up. Why not?
Let me. Yeah, let me send her an invite fast before I get to scrolling in the. See, that was. Lima Tunes Range Diary. Invite. Okay, I've invited her in. So if she, Rob, if you can send her that link, we will.
Already did.
You already did? Okay.
And did you see her Gmail account up at the top as well?
Oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
Got it. All right. Posted them. Posted the invitations. So now I get to go over and scroll down to the intro. Okay, are we ready?
Ready?
All right, coming back in 5. Hi, and welcome to the Polite Society podcast, presented by the Firearms Policy Coalition. We're recording this one live on Sunday, March 15th, 2015. I'm Paul Lathrop. On tonight's show, we're going to be talking with the guys from the Reloading podcast about getting started in reloading.
I'm John Richardson, and we'll talk about the ATF backing off of the M855 proposed ban. For now.
I'm Rob Morse, and in one of our DGUs, a Texas man defends himself against 3 armed home invaders.
I'm Gary Doherty, and we also have an interview with Melody Lauer about caring for new mothers. So climb aboard.
Strap in.
And hang on.
Episode 318 of the Polite Society podcast starts right now. All right. Do we want to try to get the personal news segment in then while we're waiting?
Unless you guys have something else you'd rather do?
No, I'm just. I hope she comes in with a muted microphone. All right. Here we go. Coming back in 5. We're going to go Gary, John, Rob, me. Hey, and welcome back. This is the personal news segment of the Polite Society podcast powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. Ran out of breath. Try that again.
That's good.
I need another cigarette. 5, 4. Hi, and welcome back. This is the personal news segment of the podcast. We are missing Rachel tonight. She has got some things going on, so unfortunately she couldn't join us. So next on the list then will be Gary Doherty. Man, what's been up with you since the last time you've been on?
Gary Doherty's got show and tell for the fellow podcasters. Do you know what this is?
That is a packaging of clamshell of some type.
What about now?
That's kind of personal, Gary. Are you sure you want to talk about that on the air?
This is a full-size gun-safe dehumidifier.
Oh.
And this weekend is what they call a factory shoot at Get Guns, which is the closest gun store to me. I assume they have these all over the country, where they have all the reps in from Smith & Wesson and Springfield Armory, everybody, and they let you shoot all their guns for free, and you talk to the reps about this, that, and the other. Well, the gun store also has Champion safe company, which is really about 10 different safe company names. I think they've just bought up everybody. And they have the reps there, and safe's on sale, so been using a fire document size safe for pistols, and kind of started getting more stuff in there than what it cost to buy a new full-size safe, so I figured I think 720 pounds is a good start for my first safe, and a little bit harder to pick up and run out with. So
I have, every guy I've ever talked to who owned a safe said I should have bought a bigger one.
Yeah. And then the biggest thing I hear is not only should I should have got a bigger one, it's I can't believe how much stuff my wife puts in there.
I don't know, guys. I mean, I have a bunch of handguns, no long guns. I don't know how fast I'm going to say I wish I would have bought a bigger safe, but I really did shop conservatively because I don't know when I'm going to need a bigger safe. The guy I was talking to there was buying his third safe. And it wasn't buying one much bigger than, I think mine is, I can't remember. It's about the size of a small fridge. And he wasn't buying one that was much bigger than that. And he said all of his were about that size. He just had them in different places. So you don't have to go. I mean, you can just buy another medium size or whatever we call this, and put it next to it or in another room or whatever. I mean, I'm not that worried about running out of space anytime soon. So we're good.
We just have to clean out a place in the garage for me to get a safe, another safe.
Another safe. There you go.
Now, in North Carolina, are there humidity issues when you have it outside your residence, John?
I think there's humidity issues whether it's outside or inside.
See, I'm not used to you upscale folks that air condition your garage.
Well, we don't air condition our garage, but yes, it can get very humid. And I would be using something like Gary with the hot rod, goldenrod, or whatever,
right,
to try to control the humidity.
Same with you, Gary?
I don't recommend in Illinois guns in the garage or the basement because they are so damp.
Yeah.
I mean, just in general, when I'm talking to student stuff, I guess you could put a safe down there with a device like this, but I don't know. The extra layer of it being in the house rather than the garage is probably a good idea too.
Sure.
Garage doors are not hard to break into.
Right.
And I was one of the few people that I know that had a alarm motion sensor in my garage. So a lot of people don't do that.
A short aside about gun safes. We found a small one that had been stolen, and guys basically beat it up till it finally broke open. It was in a side street. And we called up the police and said, hey, I think there's been evidence of a crime, and it was here. And they said, yeah, blah, blah, blah. We said, it's a gun safe. That got their attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, John, you're up next, man. What's been up with you?
Well, I went to my third gun show in as many weeks, which is pretty unusual for me. And I still haven't found out how to buy a gun through the gun show loophole. But actually, I haven't bought any guns. I thought I bought trinkets, but I never bought any guns. And this last show was a very, very small show, but it was still fun. I came home with a knife sharpener. Give it a try. It was $20, so yeah, it works or it doesn't. But at least it could be used for machetes or something.
Mm-hmm.
And Gary will be pleased to know I finally found my Mission First stock, or I should say my wife found it. I said, is this what you've been looking for? Yes!
Where was it?
It was up in her closet.
Oh, no.
In a box with other stuff. Now, my only problem is that it was meant for a mil-spec buffer tube, and we had put a commercial buffer tube on the AR, and they're just a fraction smaller. The commercial is a fraction larger than the mil spec, and I was able to get it on, but you just couldn't move it.
Okay.
So I have to just change the tube, and that will take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'll finally get around to doing the blog post on it with pictures and pictures of the parts sitting on a scale, etc. So,
Yay.
So yeah, that was my weekend.
Okay, well, Rob, what about you, man?
I've been enabling a new person who wants to join the gun culture. I took her shopping, dragged her through a couple more places. I think she was going to go down to the gun show today. But while I was doing that, I went gun shopping for myself. And in California, you know, all the Rugers are off list. So it's, you know, the usual suspects are left that I can buy so far. I registered up for a non-resident CCW class next Saturday.
You're giving it, or?
No, I'm gonna. These are so I can get out-of-state permits. They'll do all the fingerprint work right there,
Right.
which is really the reason you do it. And I worked a local gun show for the last 2 days for gun owners of California. I met 199 friends and one guy who managed to irritate me.
That's a story that's begging to be told.
Some guys just have to be right. And I just finally said, do you want our literature? He goes, no. I said, fine. He goes, yeah. And I go, oh, you're just jerking my chain for a sport. Will you go away? You know, it's like, just like that. Just maybe he was taking great pleasure in all the people he met, and as was I. We were just doing it in different ways. And I put a new recoil spring in my wife's gun. That's it. How about you, Paul?
Well, I was expecting to be home this weekend. I was going to take actually a 3-day weekend. I had planned on taking Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. Got a call on Thursday that no, I wasn't going to get my 3-day weekend. I had to leave on Saturday to cover a dedicated run, not the one that goes out to Baltimore that I did for several weeks in a row around SHOT Show. This one is Cincinnati and Atlanta. So I am sitting just south of Cincinnati today, and we'll be in Atlanta tomorrow.
Well, you should say hi to my brother-in-law since you're just south of Cincinnati.
Yeah, I'm in Hebron, Kentucky is where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
So there has been. I want to discuss a couple things before we get into the main part of the show. There's been some changes to the show. We were, for a very long time, when I very first started the show, my goal was to be 5 days a week. Then that died right away. I then for a long time was coming out 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and that lasted until I was able to talk people into coming on the air with me, and then we went down to 2 days a week, and it's been that way for more than a couple years. With my schedule and with everybody else's schedule, with what's been going on with us personally, we're going to have to, for at least a while, if not permanently, we're going to have to go down to one show a week. And this is going to be the show. We'll record it on Sunday. When I'm on the road on Sunday, it'll get released Wednesday, but I'm hoping to get it back to a regular schedule. And the advantage to that will be, if we record on Sunday, I can release it Sunday night. And so you podcast listeners will be getting Rob and I have had this conversation a lot. We are smoking mainstream media when it comes to news. We are days ahead of them. As it comes out with the way we have to record and release, we just tie them for podcast listeners. You usually hear about it the same day the Fox News, CNN. You'll never hear about it on NBC, ABC, CBS. But when Fox News and CNN start talking about it, yeah, you usually get it the same day the podcast is released. But hopefully very soon we'll be able to release the same day we record, and you'll be getting it a few days beforehand. One other thing that I didn't know until just a few seconds ago whether I was going to talk about it on the air or not, but I am. I want to thank ABN Army Surplus for coming on as a sponsor when they did. I need to let everybody know ABN is no longer a sponsor of the show. I will not be recording at ABN. I'll be doing all future recording when I'm in Sioux Falls at my house. And I think I'm going to kind of leave it there. There's issues that don't really deserve an airing other than there's a personality conflict, and that's a major reason ABN is no longer a part of the show. I do wish them the best. I wish ABN all the success in the world, and I just can't record from there anymore. So if you are used to coming and seeing me live on Sunday, I'm sorry, but give me a shout. A lot of you are friends personally anyway. If you want to come by and be on the show, we can arrange it. You can come by my house.
Yeah, sure.
So, all right, that's the end of the personal news segment. Before we go, we got 2 training classes coming up. In May, we got Ben Branham and Bob Main coming up to do Beyond Concealed Carry Enhanced. The 2-day course going to be a fantastic one. That one is almost sold out, guys. If you want to get in on that 2-day course, you need to get over to handgunworld.com. Get registered. We are close to selling it out. We will, once it sells out, have a waiting list, but you want to have a guaranteed seat, not hope that somebody bails on you. Also, we have coming up in August, we have Kathy Jackson coming back to do a co-ed cornered cat training class. That's going to be August 16th and 17th, I believe, are the dates. It's a weekend in the middle of August. That's going to be a whole lot of fun. It's been a couple years since Kathy's been in the area. You heard her last week on the show. Really looking forward to having her back. Email Susan at politicsandguns.com to get information on how to get registered for that one. We're going to go ahead and step aside to break. When we come back, we got a ton of news. So we will get to that news when we come back right after this. Okay.
Hi, Melody.
Hello, how are you?
Good. I think Paul's going to put in a break there, and then we'll do the interview.
I hope you guys can hear me okay.
Yes, I can hear you just fine.
Good.
Rob, since you set I think you even got an intro written up, so why don't you just go ahead and take us in, man?
You ready, Paul?
Yeah, whenever you are. I'm not recording on this side. We're going to have to pull the YouTube.
You'll pull it? Okay.
Yeah.
Melody, I'm going to say, and since Paul's going to record it and have to edit it, I was able to find 100+ videos on your YouTube channel. Am I about right in saying that?
I think so. That sounds about right. I never have kept track of how many YouTube videos I actually have up, but...
Okay, we'll start from there.
Before we get going, Melody, if you get to a point where you're formulating your words, feel free to pause as long as you like. We use editing software that will shorten that pause up to almost nothing. So even if you're quiet for 30 seconds, as long as we don't interrupt you, it won't sound like you were sitting there for a long time, and it sure beats going
yeah.
Also,
that's really cool. That's some neat software that can allow you to do that.
And one other thing is we do the show in 15-minute segments. If we're getting close to the 15 minutes and it sounds like you got a lot more to say or we want to talk to you for a while longer, I'll just jump in and throw the break, and then we'll come right back in and start a new segment. But we do record the show in 15-minute segments.
That sounds perfectly fine. I look forward to it.
Okay, and whenever you're ready, Rob.
Welcome back to the interview segment of the Polite Society podcast, powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. We have Melody Lauer with us. Melody blogs at Limatunes Range Diaries. That's where she records her opinions, trainings, and as she calls it, the experience of a wife, mother, and woman with a gun. Melanie decided she needed training if she was going to carry. Now she's a firearms instructor. Her YouTube channel that I see is, describing this entry into the gun culture has over 100 videos. Melody, you have 3 children and recently put on a training class for new parents. It was called Baby Wearing and Carrying.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the comments on your class, and I thought that your experience and the comments that you received was a perfect litmus test for the right of self-defense. A lot of people who I don't think are new parents, who have never explored firearms, suddenly became experts on what they thought you should do. Will you bring our listeners up to speed on your experience with that class and tell them more about yourself?
Sure, absolutely. We had quite an interesting kind of media storm that has happened over this baby wearing and carrying class. It has been in the making for a while, and you're right. I've kind of been in the YouTube and blogging atmosphere for close to about 9 years now. And I've been an instructor. I've been an NRA certified instructor since 2007. I've been a range master certified instructor since 2013. And I've been working on something along these lines for a while because I've been a mother for 6 years now. And to be honest, I was kind of waiting for someone else to come up with this class. I really didn't want to take it on myself, thinking maybe I wasn't as experienced as I hoped I was. But no one else was doing it, and I kind of figured, all right, well, I've got 3 kids. I've been doing this for 6 years now, carrying a gun and a baby, that is. And so I figured now's a good time. And then when that 2-year-old shot his mother in December, that was what really kicked me into high gear, because I was thinking, there's no reason that this should be happening anymore. I also became an administrator for an online Facebook group for armed mothers, and some of the questions that were being asked over and over and over again were a great segue into what kind of training these moms are looking for. So I took all of that kind of experience and put it together, made this class. We conducted our first one in February, the last week of February, and there was a media woman there who just did some video of the class, and I thought she was doing is a brand new range that just opened up that week. And I thought she was doing more of a segment on the range itself, not so much me, but it was actually an entire piece about me in the class. It's gone viral. That has created a lot of media attention surrounding the issue, should moms have guns, a lot of misconceptions about what the class is about. There's been a lot of theory that this class was how to shoot with a baby in your hands and all that kind of stuff. To put it very simply, this class is 100% about safety. Well, we did have some very unique things about the class. For instance, we did have childcare on site, and again, the media kind of took that as meaning that we had children in the class with us. We didn't. The childcare was only provided so that moms didn't feel like they had any excuses not to come.
Right.
So we had the childcare that was provided in a separate room. Moms could go in and go take care of their kids, of course, but when it came to the actual workshop portion, all the kids were in a separate room. There was no live fire of any kind. We did not do any live fire drills whatsoever, so there was no shooting, especially no shooting around babies. And so we started out with, safe handling, because we know that the top 2 reasons for firearms accidents in the United States are improper handling and improper storage. So we started out right away with proper handling, the 4 rules of gun safety. Then we went right from that into safe storage, what constitutes safe storage, keeping it away from little ones. Then right into what is a safe holster? How do you safely holster your firearm, keep it inaccessible to little ones? Talked a lot about purses, off-body carry, and why that's a bad idea.
Melody?
Yeah.
Would you is that Facebook page for new moms? Is that an open group? Could you tell us the name of it?
It's called Sheepdog Mamas, and Mama is just MAMA, and
Okay.
it's a closed group just for females, but there is another one for moms and dads alike that's called Sheepdog Parents, so dads can join that one. But we accept any applications or any invites for anyone who wants to come. So.
But I can understand if someone's feeling hesitant, being a closed group gives them some privacy.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense. I just wanted to make sure our listeners could. Wanted. Yeah.
Yeah, and anyone who does, like I said, either Sheepdog Mamas if you're a mom, and Sheepdog Parents for males or females, absolutely, we'll let you in. But you're right, we wanted that kind of semi-anonymous place where you could go and talk about these issues, which is, again, why I made the class, because people are intimidated, especially moms, about talking about these things in your mom groups, your large mom groups, because guns can be such a polarizing issue.
Well, if I could, Melody, I'm sorry, Rob, go ahead.
No, I can. It's one thing in northern Idaho. It's probably another thing in northern New Jersey.
Oh, yes.
The reception might be a little different in the moms group.
Well, but nowadays you're not quite sure. Even where I'm in the middle of Iowa. Iowa is pretty pro-gun, to be honest with you, and I have very few people I've come across that I talk about guns and they have a very negative reaction. Usually it's very neutral or positive. But even around here, there's always that one person who's so vehemently anti that they can ruin that experience for other people, or at least make people very uncomfortable. We do have, even in our tiny little town, we have one lady who's from England, and she is deathly afraid of guns. Now, for being someone who's so anti, she at least isn't, she doesn't exclude you because you're for guns, but she won't let her kid come over to my house. She, she's got some very kind of, what's the word I'm looking for, archaic or frightening views about guns that we know aren't true, but given her history and her education about guns, you can kind of understand where she's coming from. But it just goes to show you that no matter where you are, you can have that one person who makes it uncomfortable.
These days, cultures are mixed pretty thoroughly.
Oh, yeah. Yes, they definitely are.
Well, so do you think the media reporter who was in your class, do you think they gave the class a fair presentation in the news, or did they try to go the shock journalism route?
The original piece was very good, and I was very happy with, her name was Nicole, I was very happy with what Nicole did with it. She's a shooter herself, so she took a very neutral positive stance on it. But then what happened, and she messaged me later and said had she known that it was going to blow up so much, she would have warned me. But what happened was, of course, they can sell their pieces, and anyone who buys them can pretty much do whatever they want to with them. And to be honest, watching the news, the actual newscasts have all been neutral or positive. They really haven't been taking a side. It's been the groups like Moms Demand Action and the Coalition to Stop Gun Violence. Those have been the groups who've been taking it, and some of the anti-bloggers, and have been saying things like, oh, she was shooting with kids in the room, which is absolutely not true. Or that I was saying things like everyone should have a gun and every kid would be better with a gun, which is absolutely not true. I took a very, and I do to this day, take a very kind of neutral stance of, hey, I don't tell people if they should or shouldn't have guns. It's a totally personal decision. I just want to make sure you do it safely if you have one.
Right.
Well, if I could then, Melody, it came up earlier. We've had Kathy Jackson on numerous times, another trainer that specializes in training women. And we've had other people that do some training specifically with women on the show. I quite often, because it is somewhat prevalent in women that carry. I was kind of hoping to ask you as well, what is your take on off-body carry, whether it be purse carry or another form of carrying? Let me preface this by saying my take is it's not perfect. It's not. There are better options, but if it's the only option you got, it's the only option you got. What's your take?
Exactly, and that's exactly the take that I put in my class as well. Is I don't prefer it. I've done it if I've needed to, I've done it, but it's one of those things where I prefer people not do it. But if you do it, you better do it right. So there's a lot of talk about what makes a good gun holster. A purse holster. And then with the separate pocket for the gun, the holster that goes inside the pocket for the gun, and then also making sure that you keep it on body as often and keep direct control of it at all times.
Are you going to offer this course again?
Yes. In fact, we're probably going to try and get another one going for the 28th of this month.
Oh, right. Come soon.
Yes, real soon. And then what we've been actually working at trying to get together an entire armed parent seminar that talks a lot about all of the issues that parents can face with their children, from awareness to parking lot safety to, and this would be a 2-day event that we'd be having going on. So, because we have been getting so much positive attention, so we've gotten a little bit of negative attention, but the negative attention that we've gotten has been greatly underscored by I don't want to say underscored, greatly balanced, we'll say, by the overwhelming positive response that we've had. And lots of people from as far away as all over the country have messaged and asked for either me to come to them and conduct training, or when's the next training. I've had people from as far away as Texas say, tell me when the next one is, I will fly in for it. So we wanted to make sure that if we have people traveling from so far away, we have more than just a 3-hour workshop for them to come to.
Right.
So we are putting together this 2-day seminar filled with all parent issues that we can think of.
Melody, this is John. Do you have any plans to perhaps create a DVD or video so that for people who can't travel but need the information, that they could get it through a video, or at least almost not as good as going to the actual class?
Yeah. We've talked about it. I've wanted to, if I do it, I want to make sure that I do it right, kind of a thing. I have a lot of YouTube videos, but really those are made with my webcam on my laptop, so not the highest of production quality. So I've been talking with a couple people about what it would actually take to put together a DVD or something like that, and then, cost, how much I'd have to sell it for to at least cover the cost of production. And it is being discussed. We have no solid plans yet, but it is being discussed.
Very good. We had actually had Tatiana Whitlock on before, and we had talked to her about her video that she had done for Panteo Productions concerning children and guns.
I didn't get to see that one. What was the gist of that one?
It's about a half hour, and as she said, I want this to be could be an uncle who will now have nephews and nieces in the home, could be a new parent, could be a grandparent. You might have your relatives in for a summer vacation. How do you manage children and guns in your home? And it's very broad, as she goes, given how many topics there are to cover in a half hour, you can spend only a minute on each one.
Yeah, exactly. And I kind of narrowed specifically in on the concept of actually being out and about your parent, and it could apply to grandparents who carry. It really could apply to anyone, but obviously it was very narrowed down to parents. I had, I think, 11 moms and 3 dads in my classes, or in my class, I'm sorry. And We did have people bring in their baby carriers. We had a dummy baby, so we didn't even have a live baby for that part. And we had dummy guns, so no live guns. We did have a few live guns only because the people who had their concealed carry permit, we didn't want them to feel like they couldn't bring their gun. But any gun that came into the classroom was disabled. We had it zip tied and flagged. They had to go to the range first and have it cleared. And then we used dummy guns in the classroom, so no ammunition in the classroom. And we had them put on their baby carriers. We had tons of holsters there, some provided by Crossroads Shooting Sports, which was the facility we were working with, and a lot of them provided by myself. And these moms and parents could just pick up any holster they wanted to, find the dummy gun equivalent, put it on, and we would go around, it was part of the workshop, of just, hey, how does this feel? Does it feel like you can conceal it? Okay, this is the kind of baby carrier you're using. This is what I would recommend for how to conceal it a little bit better. Okay, you've got a little bit of an obstruction there. Let's move it behind here. So that kind of stuff. So really just working it to make sure that it worked so that it was still accessible, but not to the baby, and also accessible so that you can get it out if you need it, kind of a thing.
Melody, everybody has a holster drawer.
Yes.
And what you just did is saved people years of fussing around. You said, here, try these. Maybe they'll work for you.
Well, and it's so much more difficult if you are if you carry a baby in a carrier.
Yes.
Because now all the standard places where you carry your gun, your waist, things along those lines, are covered by baby carriers.
Right.
So when you bring these baby carriers and you're going, I don't know how to make this work. So we actually had to come up with some really kind of interesting things to make things work. And most of the gals who went away, I feel like they went away, and guys, there were 3 guys there, went away kind of feeling a little more educated on at least what they could look for. Even if they didn't pick something that day that was like, this is what I want, they went away going, oh, you know what, I know this will kind of work for me if I want to go and purchase this particular holster.
We are coming up on break here, Melody. Before we go, though, could you remind everybody if they're interested in the classes, or if they just want to find out about your blog, or maybe if you view some of your videos on YouTube, how can they do all that?
Yeah, they can find me. It's limatunesrangediaries.wordpress.com is my blog. On Facebook, it's just Limatunes Range Diaries. If you search on Facebook, that's Limatunes, and then Range Diaries. And if you just Google search that, you'll find my YouTube page, my Facebook page, even my blog. So I'm out there.
Very cool. Well, I do want to thank you for joining us today, and we hope to have you back again soon.
Thank you. I would appreciate it.
Well, hang on, everybody. We got DGUs to come up, and they're coming up right after this. Awesome.
Melody?
Yes, sir.
Well, good. You didn't jump off.
No, I didn't. I'm still here.
Okay. Thank you for coming on. If you have an event you would like to promote, and we don't see it on Facebook or something like that, please drop me a message. We're now Facebook friends. Or if you'd like to record something, or for that matter, you've seen how difficult this is, we can do it either during the normal show, or we'll find a way to Skype it, and you could promote what you're doing. I think it deserves promotion.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm appreciative of the opportunity. I don't know if you guys knew, I just came back from Los Angeles. They had me on the doctor's show to talk about the baby wearing and carrying class, and it was neutral to positive, but I didn't get to cover even a single % of what I thought was important to cover.
Sure.
And so it was just cut so short. So
Yes.
I'm kind of formulating what I really would love to talk about to people who were really scared about the issue, who are going, no, that's crazy, kind of a thing.
Well,
so I like that you provided the forum here.
You're familiar with the people who are active in the firearms and armed self-defense movement who are doctors. And the American Society of Pediatrics are just rabidly anti-gun, and your perspective and their perspective is what we're going to need to push back.
Yes, and that's one thing that, I have been surprised, though, that most people have been either very neutral or they've been going, this isn't something I'm comfortable with, but at least she's promoting safety. I think that as long as I keep promoting it that way, I can't go wrong. There will always be the haters, but hopefully we can dispel some of the myths and have it become more of a positive thing.
Yep. Has the doctor show, has that aired yet, or is that?
No, it hasn't aired yet. They recorded it on Friday, and they said it might air within the next 4 to 6 weeks. Interestingly enough, I was really expecting to go out there and get hammered. I really was. They opened it with a video. I'm sure you saw it on my YouTube page, the Carrying a Gun and a Baby video. And that I took that video 6 years ago. That was when my oldest was 10 months old. The information was still good, so I didn't worry about them showing it. But they kind of had this very ominous tone and was like, was this safe? Some people say it's irresponsible. And the whole crowd is going, boo, no, that's crazy. And I'm going, oh, great, here we go. But when it started,
I mean, that's what they're trying to do. They're going to try and sell Godzilla,
Yeah, but what was interesting was when it started, and they asked me, why I decided to do this, and I talked about it a little bit. The one gal said, I'm really glad you're promoting this safety. As long as you're promoting safety, I'm happy with that. Then it was really interesting. One of the doctors kind of blew up and said, what are we in the Wild West where people need to carry guns? And people started clapping for him. Then he threw out, especially women. And the entire crowd and his two female co-hosts completely turned on him and was just like, what do you mean by that? What's wrong with a competently trained woman? And so I just sat back and was like, go to him, girls, So he kind of got a little licking that one. Yeah. And then after they kind of turned on him, they went over some of the statistics of how many females are getting into guns. And again, kind of like, well, look, at least you're promoting safety. Can you show us how you do this? And they had provided me with a little, like a baby doll that I could just do a real quick demo. And I had a dummy gun on. And I just kind of showed that real quick. And then the other guy said, as long as you're promoting safety and keeping those guns away from little ones, I'm fine with it. So it ended on a very kind of neutral but positive note, which I was a little, and then the audience was a little less booey, hissy, if you know what I mean.
Well, you are a good ambassador, and I think you sold the idea.
Well, I hope so. I've been trying very hard to make sure I dot my I's, cross all my T's, so that no one can take that 2-second soundbite and make me look like the complete idiot. And it's already been happening. Some of the negative stuff that's been coming out has just been kind of like, what? But it's bound to happen.
Well, I think we're going to record the rest of the show. You can hang out if you want, or we got to press on.
No problem. Well, thanks so much, and I'll keep in touch. Thanks.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Melody.
Take care.
Bye.
Okay. Obviously no Susan. So, do we want to do this by segment? Do we want to bounce individual stories and have one person do a story? And how do you want to do it?
Crickets. Rob, you typed in here, where do you podcast? You want me to take that out because you didn't ask her the
Sure.
question, so I assume she doesn't have
No,
one.
she's on the Gun Nation podcast.
So type that in. Let's do story at a time. Who's going first?
Yeah, I'll take the first one.
Okay, so it's going to go Paul, then who?
What's the second story? I'll take the second one.
Paul, John, Gary, Rob.
I like our friends to the north.
Paul, John, Gary, Rob.
Oh, you get that. Oh, jeez. Okay. I wanted that one.
All right, fix it.
Well, that's okay.
Fix
At
it.
least I get the Glock. I get the Glock. That's okay.
Sorry, you have to have a Glock.
Okay, that's it. We're done.
Oh, really? Okay.
All right, show's over. Thanks for watching, everybody.
And then that means John would start there.
Okay. Ooh, 5-hour energy is your friend.
I've never tried that stuff.
Yeah, but it only lasts about an hour and a half.
Or 5 hours, whichever.
And I've never had any energy drinks.
Wow. What?
Never.
I'm with you, John.
OMG.
I'm one of these old guys. The energy drink is called coffee.
Yeah, darker the better. I do a lot of that because I get free coffee with fuel ups with my truck. So.
Nope. Decaf.
I do.
No. Decaf.
No,
Bad.
you don't understand. It keeps my boss alive.
Yeah, but it would kill me because I'd go to sleep.
Yeah,
that's
true.
Yeah, I get senior coffee now at McDonald's.
Oh, hey, guy, before we get there, or we can deal with it later. Who sent it in? The guy that, Kevin Culp, who sent in that long discussion about the different Senate bills.
Uh-huh.
When we get down there, we got to cut that to pieces.
Yeah. What I planned on doing, let me scroll down to it.
Or just read his intro and then...
and then when he goes to... And then when it gets to the point where they... So for example, S498, I'm just going to say all the rest of the information is up on our webpage. Whoever reads it, just say all the rest of the information is up on our webpage.
Right. Gary's got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got what? What do I got?
Come on, you got that. The 5-hour energy drink is supposed to help you pay attention there, dude.
Then I got it.
All right. Are we ready to do this?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, here we go. Coming back in 5. Hey, and welcome back to the Polite Society podcast, powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. We are doing our news segment. I got the first one. This one, ATF backs down on M855 ammo ban for now. Early Tuesday afternoon, the BATFE tweeted out, quote, "You spoke, we listened. At ATF HQ plans more study on the proposed AP ammo exemption framework," end quote. Well, the listen they did. Even the haughty, tone-deaf Obama administration had to listen to the NRA. 52 senators, 238 representatives, 90,000 commentators, many police representatives, and a huge swath of angry gun owners. They backed down. It was a stunning victory for the Gun Rights Coalition. However, the ATF has only promised to withhold the regulation in order to, quote, further study, end quote, the ban, leaving a possibility, in reality, a certainty, the ban will be reintroduced in the future. Never once to disrespect public opinion or the law, the administration almost immediately started to walk back the temporary hold. According to the White House spokesperson Josh Earnest, the president remains committed to common sense gun rules. Then the ATF director told a Senate Appropriations Committee meeting that he considers all 5.56 NATO to be a threat to enforcement officers, and they hope to institute bullet bans in a rational manner. Dozens of Democratic legislators are expected to sign a letter that will be sent to the ATF director asking him to reconsider the plan. And Representative Elliot Engel, Democrat out of New York, is pushing an Armor-Piercing Bullets Act. Many of these proposals would ban all AR-15 ammunition, relying on the old rubric of cop-killer bullets. By extension, almost every rifle caliber could be banned by this same faulty logic. And the Obama administration has another 22 months to work its phone and its pen mischief. Gun rights advocates, we need to stay involved and stay active. As Thomas Jefferson said, the price of freedom is eternal vigilance of those. I can't say what Charlie Foxtrot wrote.
Sons of a gun.
Yes, yes.
Well, Paul, I'll talk about it more later when we talk about articles John and I have posted. But we have 100 million sleeping gun owners who couldn't get their rear ends to the ballot box.
Uh-huh.
That's why the ATF stopped. They thought they might wake up that sleeping giant. And if they proke it a couple times and gun owners continue to snore, 556 will be gone. 306, 30-06 will be right behind.
Not to mention 308.
Oh, everything. Why not?
By 39. Anything. Oh, I've seen handguns in 4570. You know how big a 4570 round is?
Yo, that's a wrist breaker right there.
Well, the revolver weighed 12 pounds, and it's going to take one heck of a holster to carry it.
That's a baby harness.
It is a handgun by the definition of the BATFE. By their rationale, they could. I mean, if he's going after lead-based as well as anything with, copper, steel, beryllium, copper, brass, etc.
You know that those are exactly the materials that are now required to be used for hunting in California.
Exactly.
What a coincidence. Or odd coincidence.
In 5.56 or 223 Remington, there are a lot of bolt-action rifles out there in that.
Mm-hmm. There sure are.
Let me ask you this. This ban, there's probably how many millions of rounds already in circulation in the United States, unfired?
How many in my garage?
Yeah,
exactly.
But it's tens or hundreds of millions, Gary.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Are those grandfathered in, or do we have to turn them all in? Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them in.
And the weird thing is, the military's getting away from the M855 because they have found that it is, for the most, somewhat ineffective against the enemy, whether it's in Afghanistan or in Iraq.
It's not lethal enough.
It's not lethal enough.
Is it
exactly.
because steel, it doesn't expand like all lead?
It doesn't tumble quickly enough.
Well, the military tends to use full
jacketed,
full metal jacketed bullets. They don't use hollow points, so it doesn't expand.
They cannot use expandable because of a treaty.
They choose not to use because of a treaty. Let's not.
Okay. But one thing I wanted to bring up about this story, and I love this, 90,000 commentators. That's literally blowing up the phone circuits at ATF.
Yeah.
That's blowing up the web servers for the commentating. That is phenomenal. Just think of what would have happened if we would have had that kind of activity 2 years ago this coming November.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, I will say that, in my opinion, that just as important, if not more so, was the fact that you had 52 senators and 238 congressmen.
John, I disagree with you. I'll take another bite at that apple later.
I want to go back to last episode, and I wish I could say that more than just one of my senators, that both senators and my representative signed. Unfortunately, only one of my senators signed the letter that went to ATF.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I can't even go there.
John, I think you got the next story, right?
I do. The Canadian Prime Minister says gun laws are too restrictive. Things may be getting better up there in the Great White North. Canadian Prime Minister Stephen Harper said there are too many restrictions on gun ownership. He added that guns are something people use for recreation, and the vast majority do so safely. They are important for the livelihoods of rural people, recreation, and personal safety. Harper was responding to questions about Bill C-42, the Common Sense Firearms Licensing Act. The act would curtail the discretionary authority of the province's chief firearms officers. Quote, in some provinces, those firearms officers have exercised their authority in extremely arbitrary ways. Close quote. The legislation will also increase safety around the acquisition and use of firearms and deal with some of the bureaucracy and excessive red tape. Quote, we've brought in tough penalties for criminal misuse of firearms, Harper noted. And I'm always amazed at our opponents who demand that we bring in restrictions on law-abiding owners, but actually oppose us bringing in any penalties for people who actually commit crimes using guns. Close quote. It must be nice to have a rational chief executive.
I wouldn't know.
And we haven't had one in quite some time.
Yeah.
I would say going back to Nixon would be the last time we had somebody who was on our side on Second Amendment rights.
I'm not sure if I would say that about Nixon.
Okay, then we would have to go all the way back to Eisenhower.
Actually, you might go back to John Kennedy, who was a life member of the NRA.
Okay. But who also signed the 1968 Gun Act.
Actually, he couldn't have.
That's right. He was gone. That would have been Johnson.
Thank you.
That's right. That's right.
I was going to go.
Yeah.
That was the Ouija board.
It was Johnson channeling Kennedy.
Ah, there we go.
Gary, you got the next one, man.
Ohio gun laws liberalized. They're also getting better in the Buckeye State. Ohio Governor John Kasich signed House Bill 234 into law. As of March 23rd, this bill amends As of March 23rd, this bill amends a many of Ohio's firearms laws and licensing regulations. Now Ohioans with a concealed handgun license from another state will have that license recognized if that state has entered into a reciprocity agreement with Ohio. For new residents with a concealed handgun license from another state without a reciprocity agreement, the out-of-state license will be recognized in Ohio for 6 months. After that, the resident will need to obtain an Ohio CCW license. Fortunately, the new law has also made it easier to get Ohio CCW license. The new law reduces the amount of training time for CCW license from 12 to 8 hours and removes the residency requirements. Additionally, if the requirements imposed by another state are substantially comparable to Ohio, the other state's license will now be recognized. Ohio's definition of automatic firearms has also been changed and eliminates the de facto ban on magazines capable of holding more than 31 cartridges. Also, Ohioans can now purchase a long gun from anywhere in the United States. Similarly, all non-Ohioans can now buy from the state's dealers. There's more. A detailed list of the firearm-related changes taking place in Ohio beginning March 23rd can be found in our show notes. Also, stay tuned for an upcoming interview with Gary Slider of handgunlaw.us on an upcoming episode where we talk about these changes. Congratulations, Buckeyes.
Very good.
Good work, Ohio. Keep it up.
Now, in talking with Gary Slider, the interview has actually already happened, folks, a little bit inside baseball. I recorded that interview Friday night. But when I talk to him, and you'll hear it on an upcoming show, folks, if you've got a CCW license, permit, whatever, if you've got some card that says you can carry in your home state starting the 23rd, when you're in Ohio, that card's good. They're recognizing everybody, just like Indiana and South Dakota do. So, good
please.
job on Ohio.
And may I add North Carolina?
North Carolina recognizes everybody too as well.
We recognize any permit from any other state.
Well,
What about-
so these guys have unilaterally instituted state or nationwide reciprocity. For someone who tells us it can't work, it's terrible, imagine the blood in the streets. You go, really? Ohio, North Carolina? Crickets.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that was the funny thing with when Illinois was debating becoming the 50th state to allow concealed carry, and they're all standing there. It's going to be, Illinois is unique. Illinois is different. Here, it will become the Wild West, and there'll be blood in the streets. And I thought, really? You have 49 other examples, and we're that different? We have a problem.
I mean, especially with Wisconsin just being to the north of you, the state's culture is not that different than. I mean, they're not as corrupt as Chicago politics, but you know.
I mean,
I got one word for you, man. Milwaukee.
True.
Yeah.
Excuse me?
It's not Chicago, but it's little Chicago.
Yeah.
Oh,
They had, when they first got their before they got their concealed carry permits, they were an open carry state, and the chief of police of Milwaukee said, if we find anybody open carrying, we will put them to the ground, arrest them, and then worry about if it's illegal or not.
and he did that to 5 guys, and they lost the court case.
They did, but they still did it.
Oh yeah, he was the clown he purported to be.
Yeah, well, Chicago's police chief said he was going to teach his officers that it was okay to shoot people if they had a gun, regardless of their actions. And fortunately, that has not come true either.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, I was just talking with you guys brought up Wisconsin. Their concealed carry law went into effect, I want to say 2011, roughly.
Yeah, it's been 3 years.
A little over. It was just before it was just before the podcast started.
Well, the interesting thing is that over the past 3x years, they have made their laws even better as far as, what would you call it, reasonable, reducing the restrictions, making it easier to be a carrier. And in Illinois, as soon as this session started, the first thing that half the group was talking about was making Illinois more restrictive than the current our bill. And it's just, it's an interesting difference from I'm 30 miles from the border, and it's amazing how different they really think they are once you smell that Chicago air, I guess.
Well, it's about time the pro-gun Democrats straightened out their legislators.
Yeah, if we had enough of them, but then unfortunately they're each representing 10 farmers, and they just don't have the pull.
Well, I hear from Democrats all the time. We're not anti-gun. I carry. Well, buddy, maybe you have to choose. You know,
Well,
you're not convincing your legislators.
That's what they have to do. They have to be extremely vocal. I think there are enough pro-gun Democrats. They could make a huge difference in their own party.
If they spoke up.
They've got to be extremely vocal. Yep.
Amen.
Well, yeah, I don't know. It seems like the extremely, like I said, it was a Democratic legislature in Illinois that has been fighting for concealed carry for 10 years before we got the bill. But he lived in a location that was rural. I believe his district is like the southern tip of Illinois. where the general attitudes about guns is different than Chicago, and the pro-gun Democrats that live like in Chicago that might also carry, that might I think their base would not be happy if they were loud about their pro-gun attitudes. I really do.
No, I'm not asking. I'm asking politicians to follow, and pro-gun democratic citizens to lead.
Right.
Yeah, politicians will follow where they're led.
Especially if you lead them by the nose ring.
Why are pro-gun control advocates so violent? Allegedly, anti-gun filmmaker Sky Fitzgerald of Spin Films attacked and hospitalized pro-gun YouTube videographer William Saunderson. The two met at a restaurant to discuss the unexpected anti-gun bias of Fitzgerald's film called Oregon Divided. It was a film to which Sanderson had contributed. During that meeting, Fitzgerald became upset over the legal recording of the discussion. A brawl ensued as Fitzgerald allegedly took two of Sanderson's cameras. The fracas continued into the parking lot, where Fitzgerald, air quotes here, allegedly, knocked Sanderson to the pavement, breaking his arm and shoulder. Fitzgerald then fled, allegedly, with two of the cameras. After taking time to tweet about the altercation with several anti-gun Oregon politicians, and also a lobbyist for Michael Bloomberg, Fitzgerald then turned himself in to police and was charged with several misdemeanors and a felony. For whatever reason, there seems to be a common thread to the interactions over gun issues. Gun rights proponents face irrational, emotional, and overwrought anti-gun activists. There have been too many instances where death threats, violence, illogic, and emotion have issued from anti-gunners. Fortunately, the pro-rights crowd has largely conducted themselves very well.
Amen. I would like to mention in the lead up to this, when I was reading the stories, this Sky Fitzgerald, the anti-gun videographer, initially said that he was drawn on, that people drew their guns on him, which is why he attacked, until, it turned out that nobody there was carrying anything.
Right.
So,
this expands the argument that I've heard on more than one occasion with anti-gun people. Like, so we got to keep guns out of the hands of everybody. I know there have been days when if I had a gun, I would have shot somebody. And it just boggles my mind because nobody I know that carries, and including all my students and everything else, has ever said, if I had a gun on me, I would have shot somebody. I was so mad. And it always, that argument always comes from the anti-gun people, and I just can't. I understand that they might have a problem with their control. I just don't understand why they think they should their issues should be foisted on everybody.
Well, wait, what they're saying is, I'm out of control. I don't trust myself, and because that's how I believe everybody else is, you shouldn't be trusted either. It's projection.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And if Mr. Fitzgerald is convicted of a felony, he doesn't have to worry about being anti-gun because he will have no guns.
I am what is considered a hothead. I am.
Yeah. So we put to a vote.
I am extremely quick-tempered, and for long-time listeners of the show, it's come out before. Gary and I at ABN have had screaming matches outside of ABN. I have had incredibly loud arguments in the past, and I've had them when I'm armed. I have been, I've told people they're flaming idiot morons to their face while having these conversations, and I'm armed at the time. I have never once ever considered putting my hand on my gun because these were discussions. I've been told I have some Irish blood in me. I don't doubt it a bit because I have a very quick temper, but I have never even thought of drawing a gun on somebody because my life was in danger when I'm in these altercations. And it happens.
Heated arguments.
Exactly. Susan is famous for, Paul, settle down. Yeah, she will. There's been several times she will bring a man to heel right quickly. So, but no, that I've always thought that was just a silly commentary. Believe me, if you ever carried, you very much know that you're carrying, and especially if you've had training, you know when it's appropriate and when it's not. The issue of I would just shoot somebody because I'm angry with them, that's a non-issue. Everybody that's carried knows it's a non-issue.
Can you imagine if an adult said that amongst a bunch of gunnies? We'd look at the guy like he was retarded, like he had just a serious mental disability that he would think that.
Yeah. Just kind of like one of you look at the anti-gunners and they say that one of the reasons we want the M855 is to kill cops, literally, or to start an insurrection. They're always big on insurrections. Yeah.
Is that like a hockey game? Oh.
Sounds like a good name for a hockey team, the Insurrectionists.
That's right.
All right. Our next story then, this coming Friday, Glock will hold a press conference at their U.S. headquarters. The web is buzzing that Glock will finally announce their single-stack micro 9mm. The long-anticipated G43 is said to be just a few millimeters larger than the 380 G42 with the same 6+1 capacity. The concealed carry market has demanded a 9mm pocket Glock for years. Even though they're very late to market, if Glock has used those years to perfect the little gun, they will have a world beater on their hands. Concealed carriers will be happily swamping the gun counters. Now, full disclosure, the person who wrote this, Charlie Foxtrot, has been a rabid Glock fanboy since 1986. And I would add, personally, you could call me a Glock fanboy as well.
Well, I am not a Glock fanboy, but I do think they will sell lots of them. I did have somebody at the SHOT Show, a representative for Glock. It was totally non-official. He said, asked him about the single stack 9, and he said it wasn't ready yet, but they probably would have it for show at the NRA annual meeting. I also got an invite to a press conference, to a media event on Thursday before the NRA meeting begins from Glock, and I'm thinking we'll be handling these because there was mention of shooting. I mean, actually being able to handle it and shoot it.
Huh.
The Glock 42 I have shot. It's the one Glock, it's the Glock that I am the least enthusiastic about for myself because it is so small, it swims in my hands. I have a hard time controlling it.
Can you get 2 fingers on the grip? I know you can't get 3. Can you even get 2?
Yeah, barely. You can get 2, and the third one kind of rides. It's
floating in the air. That's my problem with a bunch of these 380s. I go, look, I understand it's single stack. I understand it's slim. That's awesome. Would you mind building it for human beings?
What I find is that you have to use and I don't have a big hand, you have to use
the extended mag.
The extended mag, well, not even an extended mag, with just the floor plate with the finger grip. and that's what I have on my Ruger LC9S. I can get all. I mean, I can get 3 fingers on it.
Okay.
I like having the full feel. Well, my everyday carry gun is a Glock 22 full size, so I like the feel of full control. But I can my wife's Glock 23. I can handle and fire just fine. I just these super small ones. They're just not for me. I really hope, because they're going to sell a ton of them. I hope they've really got the gun up to Glock standards for reliability.
Has that ever been a problem with them?
Yeah.
Which one?
So, some of the trigger return springs breaking on the Glocks. Yeah, it takes them a while to sort some things out.
Oh, okay. I hadn't heard of any major things like that, but
okay.
Yeah, the first generations of Glock 4s, the very first time the Glock Gen 4 Glock came out, the very first iteration, there were some minor issues here and there, but they worked them out in a hurry. I hope that they've got, when they come out with this 9mm single stack, I just hope it's all been thoroughly gone through and thoroughly worked out. And there's no more than just very minor hiccups.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they wanted to have it out by shot and didn't have the hiccups done, so I would be surprised if they were announcing it here in the middle of gun events and it wasn't really ready. I mean,
Yeah.
they could if they wanted to, they could wait till the NRA meeting. They could have waited further down the road, unless they're really, really ready. I would hope. I would think.
Yeah, we had an on-air. Well, actually, it didn't air on our airwaves. It was on the Handgun World show. I did an interview with Glock, and I specifically asked about a single stack 9. And on the air, she said, "We're aware of it. We're working hard on it. We know people want it, but we don't have anything to announce right now." And as soon as I turned the recorder off, she said, "Yeah, we'll just." Yeah. She basically said, "Stay tuned. It's coming."
Yeah.
So.
And really, it's got to be coming for them. When you have the Smith & Wesson Shield, the Ruger LC9, the Springfield XDS, whatever Taurus, the Taurus Slim, there's a lot of people who want a gun like that, and they're going to have it if they're not going to lose market share.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, well, Gary, I think you got our gun quote, right?
It is here. If you think a theater filled with unarmed people against a lone gunman is scary, imagine a disarmed populace against a tyrannical government.
Great quote. I love that. Well, hang on, everybody. We've got our DGU. No, we don't. This is the news segment. Well, hang on, everybody. We've got our interview with the Reloading Podcast coming up, and we'll get to that interview right after this. Okay. Who said that? Who was responsible for that? Who originally said that quote?
I don't know.
I think I saw it on Facebook.
Okay, works for me.
Oh, that was probably Lincoln.
Probably.
Yeah, somebody hacked his server and found it there.
John, you got the first one. You want to bring us in?
I will, just a second.
Yep.
He's checking the source.
No, I'm clearing my throat. Whenever you're ready, in 5. Welcome back to the DGU segment of the Polite Society podcast, powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. In our first DGU, a mother defends her daughter. A Newport News, Virginia mother used a gun to defend herself and her 2-year-old daughter from a home invader. Quote, "I knew the cops would get there quickly, but maybe not get there quickly enough, and I wanted to be able to defend us." Close quote. She believes because she had a gun in her house, she and her toddler are safe today. The woman didn't hesitate to pull the trigger, thanks to trips to the gun range with her husband. He is a James City County police officer and was on duty when a 25-year-old man broke a window and entered the home. The woman was on the phone with the 911 operator when the invader came at her, forcing her to shoot. The suspect was taken to an area hospital with possibly life-threatening injuries. The woman and her daughter were not injured. Quote, "Had I not been able to protect myself with the gun, I don't know what he would have done to me," she said. "I don't know what he would have done to my daughter. There's no telling. But I'll never have to find out because I stopped the situation." Close quote. Because of her courage and her husband's foresight, their little girl will grow up.
And there is a link to in the show notes to a video, the full interview with that young woman is up on our show notes. So please go check that out.
I read in another place, I think Chicks on the Right, that the invader was shot in the groin and in the gut. Neither place would I want to be shot.
No.
Oh, you do have a place that you would like to be shot. Can you share that with us?
No.
If I've got to take one, man, I'm going to pick my left little toe.
Left little toe?
My left little toe.
You really hate that sucker, don't you?
I don't know about little toes. They really help with the balance.
You know what? I was thinking about that. I wonder how many police officers that are married encourage their wives to have a gun training just at home, because they leave them home alone every day when they're at work, typically.
And while they're at work, they see the worst of the community. I would think a lot of them do.
I think it would be.
No, Barry. I'm sure that they just say, "Don't worry, honey. If there's a problem, you just call, and me or one of my colleagues will be right over."
Or they say fire. Do they say fire 2 blasts into the air?
Yeah, right. There you go.
I'm sure it's a high percentage. I just wonder if it's high 75, 85, or if it's high like 99. It'd be an interesting survey to see the numbers on it.
I'm betting it's up in the 90s.
Yeah.
Oh well, because you said married.
Well, guys that have gotten married, leaving the wives home, going out, like you said, seeing the worst of the worst. Would be an interesting survey. That's all.
Are you comfortable with would you rather your wife be disarmed or allowed to carry? Interesting question. Police 1, follow up.
There you go. The next story, California Dreamin', Rob. A man defended 4 members of his family when a crazed white guy, their words, kicked in the door of their apartment and threatened them all with a shard of glass. The resident shot the intruder in both legs with one shot from an M1 carbine, earning significant style points. The drug-crazed man was found by police bleeding severely nearby. He was arrested and taken to the hospital. During the investigation, the resident was questioned for an hour and then released. No charges are expected to be filed. Even in crazy California, the cops can do the right thing when a resident also does the right thing.
When I was reading this write-up earlier, I was just scanning show notes quickly, and I thought it said the drug-crazed man was found by police bleeding serenely nearby, and I thought, how are you going to serenely bleed? That's kind of hurt.
Well, John does. John likes to be shot in very specific places. He gets serene if it's the right spot.
Yeah, barely grazing is the way I would rather have it.
Just a flesh wound.
An M1 carbine is a great. it's a great self-defense tool, in my opinion. It's basically a pistol caliber round in something that's handy, and it's lightweight. The only unfortunate thing about the M1 carbines is they've gotten very expensive.
Well, that's because we don't make it anymore, really, and we've outlawed the reimportation of all the ones we sent overseas.
Well, that's true. And I love mine made by IBM.
Really?
International Business Machine. Yep.
Absolutely. I have an IBM PC, personal carbine.
Yeah.
Yeah, this, if I remember right, one of the rarest guns around is a Singer. Yes, that Singer that makes sewing machines. They made some for World War II, and I think there are like 4 or 5 that remain, if I'm remembering right.
Those must have been like full auto because you just pushed the pedal.
Well,
Really
even
nice,
more
like-
interesting, one of the makers of M1 carbines was Rockola, who made jukeboxes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, to be serious for another half second here, why do we think that California police officers are any different than you'd find police officers over the rest of the country? They see that they get there too late. It must frustrate them tremendously. And when they get there and the homeowner in the right has been able to defend themselves, they've got to be breathing a sigh of relief.
Yeah, seriously, 100%. I think the even in crazy California aspect of the end of that is not police officer related.
Now, there you go. Prosecutors, right on.
Right on.
Well, I think you also have to make a differentiation between the rank-and-file police officer and the politician who's now become the police chief.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Difference between police officer and sheriff's deputy, in large part.
Yeah, exactly. I was having that conversation with my mother, and I did a little research on it. I found an article explaining the difference between elected sheriffs and appointed police chiefs, and it is significant, and as well as their attitudes, and it's amazing that there are police officers who have risen to that rank and have amazingly changed their attitude. Let's survey them. Let's survey the politically appointed police chiefs like Chicago, New Jersey, New York, and see if their wives have a gun at home.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Now, I want to interject here real quick while we're still on the topic. We've got several YouTube comments, but one that's absolutely right to our story we're on right now. Simon says, Train says, I would be very interested in a Glock carbine.
They're out there. Well, at least they take Glock mags.
Yeah. Well, they have. You can strip. You take off the slide and barrel, and you can put the rest of your Glock into a carbine rifle.
Upper.
They've got those. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they have a stock system that I've seen where the whole pistol fits into, and it's not a longer barrel, but it's the same. Everything else is rifle-like. I think that would be one of those Class 3 or whatever the heck deals, John.
Yeah, if it's a short barrel.
Yeah.
A Dallas convenience store manager shot 2 armed robbers. The night manager of a Dallas, Texas, well, let's just call it what it is, a stop-and-rob convenience store, was forced to draw his concealed weapon and shoot 2 armed attackers. He had to go to guns after they assaulted an employee. One robber was shot in the arm, while the other was shot in the face. One is in serious condition, the other is in critical condition in a local hospital. Police say the shooting appears justified and that the manager will not be charged.
I was going to say 3 guesses as to which one is in critical condition. However, it is possible to get shot in the face, and I guess not be in terribly serious condition. And if you get shot in the arm, you would think no big deal, but
No, you could
there's
break
arteries right there that
Mhm.
you get that brachial artery, and all kinds of bad happens.
But thank goodness we had a store manager. I don't know whether the store management, all the way up the chain, said, sure, armed employees, sounds great. But this manager decided, given the totality of circumstances of where he's operating his store, he needed to be armed to protect himself and his employees, and he did.
Well, I hope it's not the employee who was attacked who's critical. I mean, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and they seem to celebrate the death of criminals, and I don't
No.
like that.
No,
I hope, I want them all to live. I want them to go to jail. I want them to pay the price for their crimes, but I don't want anybody to die. I really don't.
I want him to reform right now.
Well, okay, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, my wants are bigger than yours.
Our next one is home invasion leaves a robber dead, homeowner injured, and a divided community. A home invasion turned into a desperate fight for life, leaving an intruder dead. The homeowner critically injured and a divided community. In the rural Texas community of Teague, a trio of robbers kicked open a door an hour and a half after midnight. At least one of the invaders was armed and shot the homeowner in the lower abdomen. Doug Hurst returned the fire, striking and mortally wounding one of his assailants. The criminal died in the home's backyard, a semi-auto handgun nearby. His two accomplices ran, but were arrested within hours. Hurst is in critical condition in a medically induced coma. The dead man's accomplices have been charged with armed robbery and may be charged with murder for the death of their partner, with another murder charge likely if Hurst dies from his wounds. Now, disturbingly, friends and family members of the deceased robber / attempted murderer are defending him in the comments of a news article. The commentators dismiss the robbery as a bad decision or a bad choice, claiming the felon didn't deserve to die and the people should be respectful in how they discuss him. Several have threatened people who disagree with them. What can be said about a portion of society that no longer feels the stigma of violent armed invasion and attempted murder of an innocent man in his home? These are strange times indeed.
I know this is a family show, but the words that immediately came to my mind were not suitable for a family show.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bunch of thugs got shot, deserved it, and now their buddies are claiming, you're dissing my boy. Your boy's a thug and got shot.
And the guy is in a medically induced coma. It's not like, it's life or death for this guy.
Yeah, he's hanging by a thread.
Mr. Hurst. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, if the thug, and we're going to say what he is, the thug died and they found him with a semi-auto right next to him.
Right.
Fairly obvious he was armed at the time of the robbery. You break into somebody's house with a gun, despite what Gary said just a few seconds ago, if you die during the process of that break-in, I'm not going to shed any tears for you. I wish you would have made a different choice so you didn't have to die, but I'm not going to shed any tears over your death.
Well, let me clarify that, because I wasn't saying tears. I was saying I hear too many podcasts celebrate the death of thugs, and
I'll
don't
agree with that.
want that. No, and that's the problem. That the society has become way too long ago, and it's not my fault, and it's somebody else's problem. Somebody else should have done something different, criminal or otherwise. There's lawsuits of people getting hurt while they're breaking into people's houses and then turning around and suing them. That kind of junk is a problem of our society, of people thinking I can do whatever I want and then I can sue if it's bad for me. I mean, There's typically lawsuits of criminals who are shot breaking in. Not typically, but it happens too often. Those kinds of things are just indicative of a problem with society.
And I'm going to say that I'm a little surprised about people in a fairly rural community. It's way outside of. It's somewhere near Waco, but not really.
Mm-hmm.
Rural communities usually do not have that same attitude towards robbers. It's like, yeah, well, you got what you deserved.
Yeah. Don't rob, kid.
Yeah.
Right.
Things are getting a little weird in Sakaste, South Carolina. A woman at a drive-up ATM was assaulted by a man armed with a dirty hypodermic needle. The woman told police she pulled out her handgun and stuck it in the suspect's face, saying, quote, "I dare you to stab me," close quote. The suspect didn't dare and ran off. The woman called 911 and tried to follow the would-be robber, but lost him. Although very long on moxie, the woman was apparently a little short on situational awareness, as surveillance cameras recorded the man lurking as she drove up. Still, kudos to her for her courage and spirit.
Amen.
Yeah.
Actually, I've been to Sakaste many a time. It's for the lack of a better word, it's a suburb of Myrtle Beach.
Huh. Okay. Well, I hate to sound like I'm prattling on here, but another problem with our society in general is situational awareness. People are not. Typically, people that have gone through a concealed carry class that I've had a conversation with them couldn't believe how much more aware they became as they became more prepared for situations as a carrier. Excuse me, but I'm surprised that she was not more aware. It's interesting.
No, the average. Well, yeah. Given that she was a carrier, yes. But there's lots of times you're getting ready to go to the ATM, you juggle the wallet, you turn off the radio, you're doing this, that, and the other thing, get the phone out of your ears, la-da-da. There's a guy with a needle. Shoot, where did he come from? You have to slow down until you're ready to enter. You know, a lot of times what I find being aware means for me, I have to slow down until I can take things in. I'm not ready to go to the ATM yet. I'm still juggling all this stuff, and I'm not ready to be aware.
Right. Yeah, and this goes back to something I've mentioned on the show early on another show.
You podcast on another show?
On this show, on an earlier show.
Oh, on an earlier episode. Gotcha.
You know, one day the technology will be there where I can punch you through the screen. So.
And I'll deserve it then, just as I deserve it now.
I'm looking forward to the day where I can participate in an IDPA competition online.
Keyboard commandos will finally get the respect they deserve. Go ahead, please, Gary.
This wasn't a situation in this story, but a lot of vehicles automatically unlock all the doors when you put your car in park.
Yeah, I remember you did say that.
And I want to say, Gary, real quick, that our new Toyota is one of them. However, if you get into the system in the car, the user can change that, and I did, and I want to thank you for making me aware of that.
You're welcome. And like you said, most of them are programmable from within the car. The few that aren't, the dealer can fix it. So it's just be aware of that. I put my car in park when I'm at the ATM, you know. So keep that in mind, just as far as being vulnerable in those types of situations where you are focused on something else. and not you're looking one specific direction in the car, obviously at the keypad on the ATM, and you're not looking out the other side of the car. So, adding on. The next story, homeowner and police shoot at home invaders. Police and a homeowner returned fire when two break-in bandits fired at a policeman. A Brentwood, Florida homeowner was called at work by his two teenage children, frightened by men knocking and ringing the doorbell. When the kids were on the phone, the men broke open the door. The father arrived at the house at the same time as the first responding officer. The two went to opposite sides of the home. The police officer confronted a robber coming out of a window, who ignored the cop's taser and ran into the backyard. Shot were then directed at the officer, who returned fire with his sidearm. The homeowner also fired his firearm. Arriving backup found the resident and a neighbor holding a wounded suspect at gunpoint. Precisely who shot the bad guy is not known at this time. The robber's accomplice is still at large. It is likely the two robbers were the ones that stole guns from the same house the day before. In the strange world of thieves, they often return to the scene of a previous crime, seeking a comfortable familiarity, an aura of past success, and regretting the items they were forced to leave behind the first time.
So the old adage of the criminal always returns to the scene of the crime, at least in this case, proved true.
Yeah.
And it must scare the dickens out of anyone to have your two kids call you saying, people are breaking into my home.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
One other thing I'm going to say is kudos to the police officer, because that has to be, he comes up on people breaking into a home, and he comes up on somebody holding another person at gunpoint and doesn't fire, finds out what's going on. That's that police officer deserves some praise.
It sounds like a very confused situation all around,
but you know what? Bless police officers. That is the nature of their work. You don't get to read the script and then go, oh, now we're going to play it out. It's real time sorting out the nightmare. That's why their job is so difficult.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like a poorly researched neighborhood on the part of the criminals. Two neighbors were able to hold one of the guys at gunpoint. This is not a good neighborhood to try and break into.
Well, maybe they'd been working the neighborhood over, and the neighbors had enough of it.
Well, I don't know. Can they get guns fast enough?
Good point. In our next DGU, a woman shot 3 home invaders. A woman defended her life by shooting at 3 invaders in her home on the mean streets of Detroit's East Side. A wounded suspect is in custody, and police are seeking the other 2. Neighbors, again, were very supportive, with one prior victim hoping that more people would fight back against the criminals. Detroit police say the woman is cooperating with detectives.
And yet not charged yet. Good on.
Well, hopefully not at all.
Right.
Very correct. Yes, absolutely.
It hasn't been all that long ago we had Rick Ector on when we had that speech. It seemed like it was every episode for quite a while we had a DGU coming out of Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And good to see him coming back again. I love getting DGUs from a place that is not known for its pro-gun stance.
Well, Detroit Police Chief James Craig, we've reported on him several times in the news. He was originally from L.A., took a couple tours up in New England, in one of the few free states up there, and came back thinking, I have to trust the citizens. This Detroit chief currently is an advocate for armed citizen carry.
You bet. Well, our last DGU
didn't need a gun.
no, it's not a DGU, is it? Finally, in the feel-good story of the week, a punk was robbing a Chicago eatery when he found out the hard way a patron was a former bouncer and husband of a World Wrestling Entertainment performer. Lee Vernon grabbed the hapless robber from behind. He held the robber off the ground for several moments before disarming him and then body slamming him to the ground. There he held the struggling perpetrator until police finally arrived to take him into custody. The only possible way it could have been any better is if there were a couple of dead Pauls and a pile driver or two. As Varon's wife, WWE star Veronica, said, "I think that guy crossed the wrong person."
Paul, I've got several friends, 3 or more, who are bouncers. And as such, they're trained. They don't want to touch a customer if they can avoid it. They definitely don't want to hit them. But none of these guys, they are typically so physically intimidating, you don't want to start it with these guys. And even people when they're drunk will kind of ratchet their bravado down a bit. It's literally a measure. My buddy would say, "Look, you're looking at me. You got to be pretty drunk to take a swing at me." Well, this guy just wrapped this kid up and picked his feet off the ground, and then he felt that he was trying to get something out of his pocket. The intruder that was armed had been acting really strange. I think he said, "I'm hiding in the woman's bathroom because there are people on the street who have guns who want to get me." No, this guy was probably on drugs.
Well, I'm not sure whether Mr. Varon was a former wrestler or not, but if he was...
You look like it.
I would say then, I guess WWE isn't fake after all.
Well, and this guy did not have a nice, springy wrestling mat to fall on.
It was a kitchen floor.
Yeah. So, ooh.
As a former doorman in the business for 5 years, I can proudly say I never punched anybody.
You were successful. Good job.
I broke a guy's arm once, but that was just blocking a knife thrust, so I don't think that counts.
Ouch. Well, yeah, wouldn't the rules be if you punched a guy, you got fired, right?
Oh, not in Chicago, no.
Those are the rules in San Diego.
That was a personal rule.
No. It was or what's the joke from that science fiction movie Ghostbusters? Well, it's not really a rule; it's more of a guideline.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we do post each of our news and defensive gun use articles at PoliteSocietyPodcast.com. Please take a minute to share them with a friend. And as usual, I want to remind everybody we are segmenting the show out. So if you just want to share the DGUs or one of the interviews or a news, you can do that too. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to step aside here. We got at least a couple emails to get to when we come back, and we'll get to those right after this. A couple other YouTube comments here quick that I didn't get to before we moved off the topic. Susan actually commented, "Settle down, boys. Attend to the business at hand," when we were goofing off a little earlier. And Simon says, Train earlier had commented, "I don't understand the excitement over the proposed Glock. Why the excitement over a subcompact pistol that many other companies have done and done well?" My comment, I guess, on that would be, well, you'd have to be a little bit older to remember this, but Ford came out with the Mustang in the middle of the 1964 model year. Chevy followed 2 years later with the Camaro. Every Chevy fan was extremely excited when they came out with the Camaro because it was an answer to the Mustang. Glock fans, and we are out here. I am a Glock fan myself. I like Glock stuff. I'm excited when they come out with something new. So I guess that's my perspective.
So you're saying if Glock made a blender, you guys would be excited and buy that too?
I don't have many fruity mixed drinks though, so I don't know if I'd get a
Yes,
blender
you
by
do.
them.
You're a pretty mixed drink guy.
All right.
Before we record, well, how are we closing out that email with all the stuff?
Okay, when you get to
The details of each bill.
yeah, the end with there are minor variations between them. A couple of bills allow residents of state that can carry legally in their home state without a license, such as Vermont, to carry elsewhere as well, without the need to obtain a license. End right there. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a line of equal signs right underneath it.
Okay.
So end right there, and then we'll mention that the specific examples are in the show notes.
You're going to say that, or I am? That's what I was...
Either way.
You said I'm going to say it when at the beginning of the... so I just wanted to see who's saying it, so it gets said.
Oh, you can.
I don't
if
want
you
to.
feel like it.
Okay.
But I will.
I'm just
I
kidding.
don't care.
Game on.
Hey, Paul,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where you're going to take a break before you do the final wrap-up.
This is it.
Okay, Melody contacted me and said she's giving away a gun safe.
Oh.
Okay. No, just a little one, little tiny one.
Yeah.
And she asked us to promote it at the end of our podcast. I wrote it in.
Okay, as long as you got it written, I'll follow show notes.
Okay, it's there. I also mentioned that we're going to mention our planned guests for next week.
Okay.
Okay.
As long as they're written down, I don't want to have to jump over to my calendar.
Nope, it's written down.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it's not in the
You're
calendar.
great.
You don't have it in the calendar, Paul.
It's not. It's somebody else has it because I can see them.
Yeah, I gave Paul has access to my calendar.
So give access to Gary as well, will you?
I don't know, because then Frank would find out.
That's okay. He's gentle.
It's not what you said the other night.
Okay. Listener email discussion. Josh,
All right.
first up.
Watch out, Paul. Incoming message from Susan.
Who's going to introduce the show close segment?
You
Do want
are.
me to do it? Okay. Hi, and welcome back to the show close and email segment of the Polite Society podcast, powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. And our first email comes from Robert in Hudson Valley, New York. Hi, guys. I drive a tractor trailer for United Parcel Service. I'm fortunate to get many hours a day to listen to podcasts. Yours is one of my favorite podcasts. I'm going to be a little selfish here and make a request. Is it possible for Rob and John, when they talk about their blogs, to mention the web address or even include the links in the podcast description? Happy podcasting, Robert.
What a great idea. If I had a blog, I would have thought of that.
Now, we do include the links in the show notes, but I will go and say that my blog, No Lawyers, Only Guns and Money, can be found at onlygunsandmoney.blogspot.com.
And mine is at slowfax.wordpress.com.
Nice.
And I don't have one.
I
Couldn't
have
afford
one.
it, I bet.
I have one, but I'm terrible. It's on my website.
And what is that website?
FirearmSafetyInstitute.com. Next email. Ready, guys?
Yep.
Go for it.
Hello. I enjoy listening to your show. Thank you for everything you put into the podcast. Your summary of the current national reciprocity bills stated that 2 of them, the concealed carrier must have a license from his or her home state or otherwise be allowed to carry in their home state without one. I don't believe this is accurate. All 4 bills, as I read them, would allow someone with a non-resident license or permit to carry in any state other than his or her resident state, so a New Jersey resident, for instance, with only a Florida license could carry anywhere in the nation except his or her home state of New Jersey. Of course, all bills leverage the Commerce Clause and assume the person is carrying a firearm that has been involved in foreign or interstate commerce. There are minor variations between them. A couple of the bills that allow residents of states that can carry legally in their home state without a license, such as Vermont, to carry everywhere as well without the need to obtain a license. And if you look in the show notes, there's a great summary of the details of all the bills.
Yeah, he did a really, really good. And that was Kevin from Illinois that wrote that up. It gets rather into detail, but he did a great job of summing these up. And I would encourage everybody to head over to politicsandguns.com and look at our show notes for episode 318. It'll be near the bottom of the show notes that these are that letter in its entirety is written up. So, but both Kevin and Robert, thank you for writing in. Everybody keep writing in. I love getting these emails and reading them on the air.
And Susan, I just want to underline, he said everything that we put into the podcast, including the humor. So that everybody
and including the narrator that we have every week when I'm not on the road.
Right on.
Yes.
So, Rob, do you have any new posts from Slowfax you want to talk about, man?
I do. I wrote an article about why the ATF backed down this week when they tried to ban rifle ammunition. And as we mentioned earlier in the podcast, if you can ban the 855, everything is in play. The ATF is simply afraid of waking up America's gun owners. I don't believe it was the Senate. I don't believe it was the House. Our House and our current Senate with a Republican majority just, let's see, signed a open borders bill. They funded Obamacare. I don't think that our House or Senate are worried about a grassroots backlash. But there are 100 million gun owners in the United States. Most of them have been asleep for the last 20 years when it comes to politics. Even in California, gun owners could determine all statewide offices if they woke up, got up, and went to the polls. My article is up at my blog, slowfax.wordpress.com. All of my firearms articles are listed at AmmoLand. If you scroll down to the bottom of the page, you'll see me as a regular contributor. John, I know there's something you want to mention off your blog. What would you like to talk about?
Actually, I'd like to mention a comment of the day post. Sometimes I'll do comments of the day, featuring something by Herschel Smith of the Captain's Journal. He said, quote, "Here's a warning flag to all the Elmer Fuds out there who only care about your bolt-action hunting rifles and think the stuff about AR-15s is all just a bunch of made-up theater to bother pampered folk like you. They want your rifles and ammunition too. You do understand that, don't you?" Close quote. We really need to remember that this is about all of us, gun culture 1.0 and gun culture 2.0, hunters and non-hunters alike. If we don't stick together, we'll all hang together. This post and others are up at onlygunsandmoney.blogspot.com.
Now, before we go, after we finished up the interview, Melody Lauer got back in touch with us and asked us to promote a contest she is running. Take a firearms safety course and be entered to win a free quick access safe. She's giving away a gun safe if the participants only get 4 hours of training. The link for that is up in our show notes. So, well, again, I want to mention before we head off, we are now going to be doing these just on the weekends, just once a week. We'll record them on Sunday. For the next, this one will be released probably Wednesday, but I'm hoping very soon to get record on Sunday, release Sunday night. So you'll be getting the content a lot quicker, and I hope to be getting that all underway soon. That does wrap up another episode of the Polite Society podcast. I'd like to thank Melody Lauer and the guys from the Reloading podcast for joining us today. I plan on being actually broadcasting from my house next Sunday. You guys going to be there?
Well, not at your house. Are you inviting us in?
Yeah. I tell you what, it's going to be. I'll save some what do you call corned beef from St. Patty's Day for y'all.
Thank you. I'll join you, even if I have to do it through Google Hangout.
There you go. And once again, that's open to every listener of the podcast. Paul's going to go ahead and give out his address. Show up whenever you want.
Yeah. 2522 West 41st Street, number 250, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, 57107. Google it. All right. And then next week we got Sandra Muldoon, Sherry Spivak of New Jersey Second Amendment Women will join us. George Hill, Matt Ogre is going to be with us. And I'm looking forward to that one. I really am. Until the next time, everybody.
Stay safe.
Be aware.
And we'll see you down the road.
And before we go off air, I do want to mention our advertisers again: Concealment Solutions, Crusader Weaponry, New Jersey Second Amendment Society, and the Firearms Safety Institute. Everybody join us next Sunday, 3:30 p.m. Central Time, and we'll try to knock another one out. Thanks again for watching, everybody.